Hello everyone, and welcome to the Set 11 2-cost deck list and review. So without much further ado, let's get into it. So here's the general deck list build. We have 3 Dead to Rights, 3 Spiderweb Array, 2 Skeleton Dreamer, 3 Kiss of Lust, 3 Zealot of Lust, 2 Do Blame Duke and Dame, 3 Whispers of a Dream, 3 Demonium Punk Devil, 3 Vagabond Lizard, 2 Wandering Chef, 3 Paradise Vanguard, 1 Tart Man, 3 Ice Shillandre Gilded Autocrat, 3 Zelganea the World, and 3 Crimson Rose Queen. And then the Evolve deck has 1 Do Blame Duke and Dame, 1 Wandering Chef, 3 Crimson Rose Queen, 2 Paradise Vanguard, 2 Ice Shillandre Gilded Autocrat, and 1 Zelganea O Great World. 2 costs of this set is a little weird. There is certainly a few less 2 costs than there were usually. Normally in previous sets there would be roughly about 9 to 10-ish non-2 cost cards, and then the rest would be 2 cost cards. The non-2 cost cards would usually be Crimson Rose Queen, Altar Plane Arbiter, and something either like Maisha or Rulinai. But now in this deck list there's about 16 non-2 costs between Dead to Rights, Paradise Vanguard, Tart Man, Ice, Zelganea, and Crimson Rose Queen, so that's a significant bump up compared to usual. And I know it's only about 3 to 4 cards, but even at about 9 or 10 cards, sometimes you just kind of saw non-2 costs a little too much for your liking. So the fact that we're kind of investing more into non-2 costs is a little weird, and not sure how much I'm going to build this deck or adjust it because I kind of enjoy the general about 3 sets of non-2 cost cards and then everything else being 2 cost, but who knows, maybe I'll dabble with it a little bit. There is one other 2 cost card that was added to the set that is Grudge Teller. It's a 2 cost 3/2 that on Fanfare deals 1 damage to each enemy leader, but if you have Sanguine active, it deals 3 instead to all enemy leaders, which seems like it would be pretty good in the late game with Crimson Rose Queen and being able to activate Sanguine with Zealot of Lust and Demonium Punk Devil, but I guess it didn't make the cut for this person. And I don't believe most decks in general ran Grudge Teller anyways, but yeah, it's just a little strange. The 2 cost is, in my opinion, a little odd this set. But anyways, I'm going to be explaining the cards further in detail if you're not so familiar with these cards, but if all you need is a deck list because you're familiar enough with these cards that you know where to start, then you're all set. But otherwise, let's get on to the explanations. Generally, my card reviews will go from the top left card starting with Dead to Rights, going all the way across to the right, and then going down back to the bottom left with Wandering Chef and going to the right. There might be a couple differences because a few cards might kind of bundle well together, but that's kind of the general order of which I'll review the cards. First up is Dead to Rights. It's a 1 cost spell that says quick. You can select an enemy follower on the field and give it -2/-2. It has an alternate effect that when it's in the cemetery, you can banish Dead to Rights and a copy of Ice Shillandre Gilded Autocrat, and you can select an enemy follower on the field and engage it, and that will have to do with the Magic Train later on in the explanation, but regardless, it's a pretty good card. I'm kind of surprised it's in 2 cost, considering it's a 1 cost, but I suppose for a 1 cost Angelic Snipe early game, it might not be the worst idea in the world. Next up is a really good common card, Spiderweb Array. It's a 2 cost spell that says you can select an enemy follower on the field, engage it, and draw a card, and it doesn't refresh during the controller's next start phase. So if there's a card that you don't really feel like you can deal with at the moment, you could actually just save it for later without even having to waste a card in hand because it refreshes itself by letting you draw an extra card. So really good card in general, and it probably would even be run in kind of classic control-based decks as well. Even with Crimson Rose Queen, you could use this with her to be able to burn 2 and not have to worry about 1 single follower being on the board, especially if the 2 burn damage on the follower wouldn't even kill it, so you could instead just keep it engaged for a turn and deal with it later. Next is Skeleton Dreamer. He's a 2 cost 2/3 that says whenever this follower gains attack or defense, give it Storm, and then last words, you summon a Bullet Bike token and bury the top card of your deck. This is a little bit of a stranger card, considering the only cards that can buff any followers to give them, well, to give Skeleton Dreamer Storm in particular, but any card that buffs Skeleton Dreamer is either Skeleton Dreamer himself with a Bullet Bike or the Vagabond Lizard, which gives a Bullet Bike as well. So the options for buffing him to give him Storm are minimal, and I understand that you could just keep the bike on the field for the vast majority of the game, but it just seems like a weird long win con for a probably minimum 3/3 Stormer, but I mean, if you have a couple bikes on the field, maybe it'd be like a 4/3 or 5/3. I don't know. In general, it just seems like I would be more sold on this being a card if there was more buffs other than just itself in a different card. If it was kind of a more common thing throughout the whole deck, I'd probably be more sold on it. But, take with that as you will. Next is a classic card for 2 cost, Kiss of Lust. It's a 2 cost spell that says give your leader 2 life and you draw a card. And if Sanguine is active for you, you draw 2 instead of drawing 1. So it's in a best case situation, heal 2 and draw 2. Real good. It also costs 2 for Crimson Rose Queen to trigger. Overall, really solid card. And there's a few cards in the deck that do trigger Sanguine, so it shouldn't be that big of a hurdle to be able to hit Kiss of Lust at its full potential. Next up is the Peanut Butter to Kiss of Lust Jelly. It is Zealot of Lust. It's a 2 cost 3/2 follower that says you can give your leader -1 life, select an enemy follower on the field and deal it 1 damage, and you can activate this twice per turn. And so this triggers well because Sanguine's active whenever you lose life for the turn, whether you subtract life or you take damage on your turn. So really easy, just play Zealot of Lust, deal something 1 or 2 damage, then play Kiss of Lust, heal it back up, draw 2, and you can look out a little bit of board removal and a little bit of draw. So real good. Next is Do Blame Duke and Dame. He's a 2 cost 2/2 that on Fanfare you bury the top card of your deck and he evolves for 1. And on evolve you get to select an enemy follower on the field and deal it 2 damage, and then Necrocharge 10 you deal 4 damage instead of 2. So just really good early game card to help clear out very fast threatening early game boards between the 2 damage and then the rush it gains from evolving. So, and obviously it being 2 costs, so it synergizes really well with the deck. Up next is the Imaz card, Whispers of a Dream. It's a 2 cost spell that says quick. You can select an enemy follower that costs 3 or less on the field, destroy it and bury the top card of your deck. Really solid card ever since Imaz has been out, especially with a lot of cards that are 3 costs or less that not only obviously cost 3 or less, but also might have additional costs that buff them up that normally other destruction spells might not be able to deal with. The 2 prime examples I always think of is Realmia and Ancient Alchemist. Maybe not so much Realmia because her defense doesn't go up, but the fact that Realmia does get Storm and can potentially deal a lot of damage late game, Whispers is a great answer to her. And Ancient Alchemist, even though it's a 3 cost, it does get a big defense at 5 when it's evolved, which is tough for things like Surefire Bullet to deal with. So Whispers of a Dream has always been a really good solid answer to some of those followers. Up next is another classic, Demonium Punk Devil. He's a 2 cost 2/3 with the ward, and then he has an act that says give your leader -2 defense, and it gets Bane for the turn, which essentially means whenever it fights something or something fights it, the thing that is attacking or be attacked will just instantly be destroyed after the battle with Punk Devil, and you can only activate this once per turn, and then last words you regain those 2 life that you paid. So ultimately the Bane is really free, really used well late game when Punk Devil doesn't have big stats, but the Bane sometimes can be really tedious for some decks where you want to clear Punk Devil, but you don't want to send some big 6/6 follower into it just to die to it. So, and it also helps activate your Sanguine as well with the 2 life cost. Kiss of Lust synergizes really well with Punk Devil because you essentially get the 2 life back instantly for paying 2 for the Bane, and then once Punk Devil dies anyways, you get 2 life again. So just really easy way to get Kiss of Lust to fully go off without any real solid investment. Getting to another new card, we have Vagabond Lizard. It's a 2 cost 2/2 that says on Fanfare you may put a Bullet Bike token onto your field or your EX area, and in this case with 2 costs, you're usually just going to put it onto the field. And the last words is you put a Dutiful Steed token into your EX area. So 2 cost card gives you some tokens for Skeleton Dreamer. And I suppose the Dutiful Steed could be used later with Skeleton Dreamer, but unfortunately you do have to pay 1 play point to play it from the EX area because Dutiful Steed costs 1 to play. But you could always kind of keep it in your back pocket in the EX area for the late game when you want to play Skeleton Dreamer. So, it's not the worst in the world, I suppose. Up next is another new card, Wandering Chef. He's a 2 cost 2/2 follower that can evolve for 1, and its fanfare is if you have a mount card on your field or in your EX area, give your leader 2 defense, and on evolve, you can look at the top 4 cards of your deck, and you can reveal a Wasteland card from among them and add it to your hand, and put the rest of the bottom of your deck in any order. You could grab another copy of him if you want, but the biggest choice you want to hit is Ice Shoal and Drake, which we will get to very shortly. But overall, not a bad card, but I have seen some decks just cut him in general. Especially when he kind of hits since he's a 2-cost 1 Evo follower, Do Blame kind of helps better in that regards with board clearing that Wandering Chef probably won't provide. But that's why, you kind of run both based on the situation. Up next is Paradise Vanguard. It's a 3-cost 2/2 follower that on Fanfare, if you have at least 5 angel cards in your cemetery, you can select an enemy follower on the field and banish it. I will just say right now, during the explanation here, that will never happen in this deck, so you can kind of effectively ignore it. It does evolve for 1, and on evolve, you get to select an enemy follower that costs 4 or less on the field and banish it. I'm a little conflicted with this card in the deck, considering it is a non-2 cost, and it seems like there's already a ton of non-2 cost cards in the deck anyways, and I understand why it's here. There's a lot of decks that can kind of spam a lot of followers, and considering it can banish a 4 cost or less on evolve is pretty good, and then it can just rush into something. The only downside of it really is that it's just a 3/3 on evolve instead of most 3-cost cards being a 3/3 and then evolving into a 4/4. This is a 3-cost that's a 2/2 that evolves into a 3/3. So that's about the only real downside in general, minus it just not being a 2-cost card. Next is the one of Tartman in the deck. It's a 4-cost 4/4 that on Fanfare you can search your deck for any card, literally any card, and add it to your hand and then shuffle your deck. Sounds really good on paper, but it is a 4-cost card, and by the time you get to turn 4, usually the game is starting to pick up, so this is a little bit of a tempo loss to be able to search for whatever you want. However, at the same time, I also, through experience, know that sometimes if you are missing a card like Crimson Rose Queen and you are struggling to find it, even on like turn 4 or 5, and you know the turn that you can play Crimson Rose Queen is coming up soon, and you're just not seeing her at all, you could always just throw Tarman down on hopefully a slower turn to try to at least grab her for later. So I understand why it's here. It is very weird, but I get it. Also, by the way, the picture on the right is Ms. Tartman, which is the exact same card. It's just an alternate printing of it in an ultimate rare version, but it's the exact same card. As you can see, it's still 4-cost 4/4 with the same Fanfare effect, and you can see above Ms. Tartman, it does say Tartman, so legally in the game, it is a copy of Tartman, and between the 2 copies, you can have up to 3 copies. So you can have 3 of Tartman and 3 of Ms. Tartman. You have to have 3 of, 1 of Tartman, 2 of Ms. Tartman, or vice versa, or all 3 of 1. Next up is the big guy from set 11, Ice Shillandre, Gilded Autocrat. He's a 5-cost 5/5 that on Fanfare, if you have no Magitrain on your field, you get to summon one, and whenever he becomes engaged, each opponent discards a card. The Magitrain is on the right that is summoned by him. He does cost 1 to evolve, and on evolve, you can discard a card, select 2 followers in your cemetery, and add them to hand. He still retains the part where whenever he becomes engaged, your opponent has to discard a card, but he also has an additional effect now where during your turn, whenever a player discards a card, you can select an enemy follower on the field and engage it. This discard effect is both when you and your opponent discard, so it will trigger on the on-evolve of the cost of discarding a card, and when Ice becomes engaged, when your opponent has to discard a card, it will trigger again. So ultimately, pretty easily, you should be able to get 2 followers to get engaged between both effects. The Magitrain is a amulet, however, it is a 5-cost 4/5 amulet, and normally amulets don't have stats. However, it can get the 4/5 stats if you pay 1 play point, you tap any number of followers that cost a total of 5 or more on your field, and you maneuver the card, which is when it becomes a 4/5 follower for the turn. It gains Rush and a strike effect that says select an engaged enemy follower on the field, destroy it, and give your leader 2 defense. So the common turn will be to play Ice. You get the Magitrain, you pay 1 to evolve Ice, and on evolve you discard a card, you get 2 followers back from your cemetery, pay 1 play point to maneuver the Magitrain, and also between your discard and tapping Ice to maneuver the Magitrain, you get to engage 2 enemy followers, which is perfect for the Magitrain considering it has rush, so it can rush into one, and then the strike effect can destroy the other. And then at the end of the turn, the Magitrain loses its stats, so it becomes just a regular amulet again, but that also means it loses the damage it received during the turn. So if it ran into something that, let's say, had 2 attack, so it goes down to 3 defense, it just gets reset back to nothing once it turns back into an amulet. Also, the rush is only relevant during the first turn that the Magitrain is played. After that, it technically can swing at whatever it wants as long as you can maneuver it. So a lot of times after the first turn, you will just swing at your opponent for 4, and just with the strike effect, destroy an enemy follower that's engaged and give yourself 2 defense. So overall, the card is really crazy, especially since during your opponent's turn, it's an amulet, and there's not a lot of amulet hate in the game right now, so tends to stick on the board pretty well. So yeah, just overall great set of 3 cards. Definitely recommend for the deck. The synergy with ice and the rest of the deck that I think is kind of the key point is you do with the on evolve get to grab 2 followers from the cemetery and add them back to your hand. So a common play will probably be to grab either Crimson Rose Queen and a 2-cost card, or if you already have enough Crimson Rose Queens in hand, you just grab 2 2-cost followers to preemptively have ready to regain with Crimson Rose Queen's on evolve effect. So yeah, ice synergizes really well with 2-cost. Next is number 21, Zelganea of the World. It's a 5-cost 5/5 that has 2 fanfare effects. The first is you select an enemy follower on the field, and if there are no other followers on your field, you destroy it and draw a card. And then the other fanfare is if your leader's defense is 10 or less, you give yourself 5 defense. You may also pay 10 play points and banish Zelganea of the World from your cemetery to put number 21 Zelganea O Great World from your Evolve deck into your EX area. Zelganea O Great World is a 10-cost 10/10 that says at the start of your end phase, if it is in your EX area, you deal 4 damage to each enemy leader and enemy follower on the field, and then on fanfare, you deal 10 damage to each enemy leader and enemy follower on the field. O Great World is ultimately meant to be the, okay, we're done playing this game, we have to wrap it up within like a turn or 2, but Zelganea of the World, the 5-cost follower form, is really good because it's also a 5-cost for the Magitrain, so you can play it, and since the Magitrain is not a follower when you start the turn, it is easy to have no followers on your field to be able to pop 1 enemy follower and draw a card. And then you can just pay 1 play point to maneuver the Magitrain and make it a real follower for the turn. Last but certainly not least is Crimson Rose Queen. She's a 6-cost 4/4 that on fanfare you put a Thornburst token into your EX area, which I put to the right for you to be able to look at. The Thornburst token is a 2-cost spell that says you can select an enemy leader or enemy follower on the field and deal it 3 damage and draw a card. Crimson Rose Queen can evolve for 2, and on evolve you reveal your hand to your opponent and you recover play points equal to the number of 2-cost cards revealed this way, and whenever you play a card that originally cost 2, you choose one of the following effects. You can either 1, deal 2 damage to each enemy follower on the field and heal your leader for 2, or deal 2 damage to each enemy leader. Since she is a 5-cost or greater follower, you could also pay 1 to maneuver the Magitrain by engaging her as an option. It's going to be pretty expensive at 9 play points at that point, but late game, it could certainly be an option. The Thornburst is really good too because you could deal 3 damage between either a leader or follower depending on the situation, and then same thing with Crimson Rose Queen, depending on the situation, deal 2 more damage to either the enemy leader or enemy follower. So you got good easy 5 damage at whichever direction you need between, and then you get to draw a card and still heal if you did choose to deal 2 damage to an enemy follower. So yeah, ultimately she's a really solid card that's needed for 2 cost, and you just need to run her at max copies. And that's pretty much it. Thanks for watching, and if you have any questions, let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I appreciate it. You guys are awesome. Bye.